Hello, everyone. This is Paul Safar. This is Kevin Lay introducing Paul Safar, a wonderful member and active composer in Oregon here. And his uh, topic today is, I don't have it in front of me.
Breaking the ties of the past, forging ahead the future of music improvisation. And I'm not going to talk a ton here at the onset because the bulk of this evening, fortunately for me, is just going to be playing a video presentation, after which I would like to have as long as a discussion as we feel we have energy and interest for afterwards about that topic, both on things that I may have touched on and things in general about maybe how we can inspire each other, what our experiences are with various types of improvisation, but especially I'm interested in trying to incorporate quote unquote free improvisation and group improvisation more into my life and with ye all composer performers who are out there in Cascadia land. Um, Basically, I was lucky enough to go to Croatia for the first time this past April and do a very short presentation at the Zagreb Biennale. I applied for the thing and honestly didn't think I'd get it, but I did, and I was excited to go there. If you don't know what that is, the Zagreb Biennale is a biannual avant-garde new music festival and sometimes symposium that has been going on, I guess, continuously pretty much since 1961. So it's well established in Zagreb, and people like John Cage have been there many times. There've been a lot of premieres, I guess. And it was wonderful just to attend other lectures there. Very interesting people from all over the place, especially Eastern Europe, but other parts of the world. And I heard some great concerts of new music, including a very out there, I hadn't heard about it before, a wonderful opera, Alan T, about Alan Turing, the father of AI and computer science in a way, by I guess it was Pierre Jablonski, a French composer. It was wild, completely out of my wheelhouse, and I was enthralled. So anyway, it was exciting. Um, I'm not going to talk much here. I will maybe try to also put a few addendum things in the link afterwards. But basically, I've got about a 38-minute kind of mix of video and mostly a PowerPoint presentation with me talking over it that's based on the presentation that I did in Zagreb. Each Biennale time, they have a theme, and this year's theme was broken relationships. So that's why I came up with this idea of how much do we need to kind of break ourselves away from our past, stuff, our baggage or whatever, in order to be an effective improviser. So that's sort of the thrust of my presentation. And I'm just going to go ahead and shut up and kind of let it do its thing. And then I welcome everybody to talk about their experiences too, and get some ideas and just share some food for thought for the future, or maybe some other composers and things. So if that sounds good, I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Um, Give me a moment here. We didn't have time to test this out. Do I have this on here? Here we go. Desktop thing. You get to see my messy desktop. And can you all somehow let me know for sure if you do not end up being able to hear things well enough or see things well enough? There are a few moments where the sound may be lower than other times, so I apologize in advance for any of the technical stuff. But here it goes.
You're not sharing yet.
I'm going to start it now.
Okay.
Are you trying to screen share, did you say?
Yes, did it work or no?
No.
No.
Ah, goodness gracious, I just did this the other day.
Do I need to do something as host to allow you to? I
Um,
don't know.
I don't think so. Let me try this again. Share. Share. Oh, okay.
There
Sorry,
we
this
go.
is going to do it. Sorry.
Thank you.
hmm See it now?
Yes. I think we're not getting the audio.
No, no audio?
I wasn't getting any audio.
Neither was I.
I wasn't either.
Gosh, and I know we've gone through this a million times, and I'm always the one who's kind of complaining about Zoom, but I thought I had it dialed in. I had,
It could be a driver, like you're on an Apple. I remember QuickTime. Yeah.
huh.
The maybe could be if you
The
go
the
to
other
your
option I can do
settings.
is I could try it on YouTube, but I don't know if that would help. I
It
do have
might.
it.
I think it's worth trying. You got the same presentation there.
Yeah, I think so. Give me a moment. Sorry about this, everybody. Doing the best I can. Um, I wasn't planning on this, so. Uh,
Hmm. Well, it was worth a try.
hmm.
Do you want to try
Okay.
your computer's settings and audio
Let
settings?
me. It shouldn't be any. I don't know. I just did this with somebody the other day to try to make sure this wouldn't happen. Let me try one more time, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. Take care, Liz. Thanks for being here. Oh, I sorry. Yep. That's what it is. It wasn't clicked on. Yep, this will work now. Sorry. Hi there, I'm Paul Safar. I'm a composer, performer, and piano teacher based here in Eugene, Oregon. It's fall time, 2025 right now, but in April of this year, I was lucky enough to present a little bit of a paper in Zagreb, Croatia, at the Zagreb Biennale, which is a combination music festival and music symposium. And I did a version of this presentation that I'm going to do today here for you about my experiences, my journey with the art of musical improvisation. It is less of a scholarly paper, although at the end of this presentation you will have a link to a set of questions that I asked 5 of my musical colleagues who are very skilled at the art of music improvisation. And it's interesting to glean some of their answers. So I hope you enjoy this presentation on breaking the ties of the past in the art of music improvisation. As we begin to break down the idea of improvising, let's start with the word itself. One dictionary definition of the word improvisation is the activity of making or doing something not planned beforehand, using whatever can be found. It comes from the Latin word improvisos, meaning unforeseen. And of course, we have all sorts of synonyms for improvisation, including ad lib, impromptu, to extemporize, to do something ad hoc, to be off the cuff, jamming, riffing, that kind of thing. I like the ending of this quote here, using whatever can be found, because I think that's important to remember that we're not doing something in a vacuum. We are utilizing things right around us. I'd like to kind of begin with two lovely quotes. The first from Steve Nakmanovich, who says, "Improvisation is like taking an unscripted walk in a foreign city you've never been to, with in-the-moment decisions, likes and dislikes. Rewarding encounters often occur." I think we can all relate to that feeling of walking, whether it's in a city that you've never been to, like I was in Zagreb before giving this presentation, or even in your own city. The idea of kind of wandering around, not aimlessly, but going without a real destination, a pre-planned game plan. And it can be really, really magical to just to sort of have an afternoon and explore. Another analogy to improvisation is from Stefan Grappelli, who says, "Improvisation, it is a mystery. You can write a book about it, but by the end, no one still knows what it is. When I improvise and I'm in good form, I'm like somebody half sleeping." So I think we all have felt, whether it's in music or not, when we're kind of in the pocket, we're in the moment, we're in tune with things, and there's a certain magical element about this and an unexplainable quality to improvising. It's also important, I think, to realize that not every improvisation, when you put it out there in performance, is going to be a masterpiece. It's hit or miss sometimes. And for me, this might seem a little bit silly as I'm here sitting with a bunch of different glasses of red wine, but for me, improvising is a little bit like the act of wine tasting, because my main craft as a musician is that of a composer, which, although there's definite relationships to improvising, is a little bit more of a heady intellectual activity. And I often have music in my head 24/7, and the act of wine tasting, which reminds me a little bit of musical improvisation, really forces me to be in the moment and to slow down and savor the flavors and or musical notes in the moment. Improvisation is everywhere, obviously, in everyday life. We improvise probably without even knowing it. In our conversations, the act of a conversation itself is improvisation. We don't compose a conversation. We don't pre-plan everything out, hopefully, when we talk to somebody. We also brainstorm in everyday life in whatever field you may be in. And of course, it's in various artistic disciplines, from dance and theater, film to some extent, stand-up comedians, and of course in music. And the genre that we think often the most about with cultivating improvisation is jazz, which was initially a uniquely American art form. We also think of it in experimental and avant-garde styles, electronica, rock and pop, etc. But it's not necessarily only in jazz music. Even in standard classical repertoire, I would argue that there have been elements of improvisation. Obviously, historically, the great composers that we know, the known names of Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, etc., were known to have been fantastic improvisers. And Mozart even said that in his compositions he would love to have and valued not doing the piece the same way twice. So he preferred things to have an improvisatory quality. But even in fully written out music, utilizing different phrasing, dynamics, articulation, pedaling, tempos, touch, rubato, all these elements, in my opinion, is in a sense improvising. And I think it's important to shape classical standard repertoire in that way, and to not be playing it the same exact way each time. If the music I'm making surprises me, it usually feels fresh to the audience as well. Music is all about communicating, and I think that's a big part of it. In a jazz standard, which is often the template for improvising, I find it challenging to sometimes not repeat myself and do very similar patterns or similar aesthetics. So sometimes I think about my mood, the atmosphere of the room, the time of year. So I think I'm going to try to do a little short improvisation on the jazz standard Autumn Leaves, since we are just about to enter the autumn time. So the theme for the 2025 Zagreb Biennale was broken relationships. And that phrase and imagery does seem to resonate well with the idea of improvisation in music, and especially free improvisation, or mostly free, semi-structured improvisation. In that, if we ask the question, do we need to cut ties with past patterns, training, and structures to improvise authentically and effectively, especially in free improvisation? And my thoughts on the subject are, it's a mixed bag. On one hand, yes, I think it is important to some extent, break one's ties of the past, because we need to be in the moment. And we also want to avoid getting caught up in the baggages of some restrictions from training, or what we think music should be, because the whole idea of improvisation is to sort of be free in a sense, and explore and be in the moment. But conversely, as we know, the past always informs the present, and we can cultivate, I think, the strength of our training. And as I've done this addendum that you'll see attached here, this set of 10 interview questions with colleagues of mine in Oregon who I value as improvisers, when I asked them the question about this, almost all of them put it out there that it is very important to not let go completely of your past, of your training. You are who you are, and let's embrace that to some extent too. I'd now like to share with you my journey with musical improvisation through my lifespan, not because it's so important to view mine in particular, but I think it just can kind of give some food for thought as we go here. When I was a small child just learning the piano, let's say around age 7, and I was taking classical lessons, I was conversely also just enjoying noodling around, improvising on the piano in a very uninhibited, kind of free way. I didn't have all the theory knowledge back then, so I was really going more by ear and instinct and less by theory rules. And to be honest, I don't think I ever quite, in my later years, recaptured that sort of playful, uninhibited quality there. And I improvised a lot as a kid. So it wasn't until later on that I kind of got back to doing that a little bit more, free improvisation. Then during my teenage years, in addition to still taking classical piano, etc., I got heavily into pop music. For me, my idols were Billy Joel and Beatles and such. And also, and in that world, in song form, I certainly was gaining my own theory knowledge, but improvising was more sort of on the spot arranging and maybe some short little solos. Then in the college years, I got thrown into a jazz combo my senior year of college, and it was quite an experience just to kind of throw caution to the wind. Still focusing on very, very highly structured improvisation, meaning the jazz standard. That's the template, basically a series of theme and variations over a set of chord changes. You could almost view jazz standard as something of a passacaglia. And sometimes it's tricky to make that fresh today. In a little bit, I'll maybe try to play an example of some ways I would try to do that. And later on, and I'm going to share with you these coming up here, I've had two pivotal moments that have really kind of informed my interest in and exploratory nature here towards free improvisation. So when my Seattle pianist friend Terry Wergland and I decided we were going to do a free improvisation at a concert, we decided to make it not completely free and ahead of time collect a series of little cards. And on these cards, these playing cards, the front is just a regular playing card surface, but on the back we asked people to write little musical suggestions. They could be specific theory suggestions or descriptive things. So what we decided to do was make it a little theatrical, and at the beginning of before the performance, kind of put it out here like a card dealer at a casino or something, and say, hey, pick 5 random cards, and we'll put them on the piano. Don't show us 5 random cards. And the two of us then sat down, forehand on the piano, and started improvising when we saw play inside the piano, etc. And we just kind of little by little did vignettes that at least were inspired by these certain musical suggestions. Didn't mean we couldn't go off and do other notes or other things, but at least it gave us something to kind of go by. So I hope you enjoy this next audio segment of Card Games. As we listen now to an excerpt of this live performance of a piano duet, a free-ish improvisation between pianist Terry Wergland and I at a concert. We called this little activity Card Games, as I've explained, having the audience pick out randomly about 5 or so cards, playing cards, with these suggestions musically. And as you can hear now, as we get started, listening back to this after a number of years, I was actually pleasantly surprised for a couple of reasons. One, off the bat here, I really can't tell if I was on the bottom part, the secundo, or the primo top part. So I really felt like Terry and I, despite not having played together hardly at all, and despite the fact that at that point in time I was very nervous about free improvisation, I was also very excited about it. It was cool just that he and I were kind of simpatico enough to sort of blend like that. So as we get going here, you can probably hear that the mood has changed. I don't know which card we're playing to exactly here, but it's this, we've kind of shifted into another mood. I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit ahead now towards the end of our improv. And as we notice, at a certain point here, I'm on the bottom, and I'm kind of rocking out on something here, and Terry leaves the piano because happens to be on the stage the instrument of the theremin that was being used for another piece on this same concert. And Terry knows how to play the theremin. I sure don't. But he was utilizing the things at hand, as we talked about earlier in that opening slide. And basically, you know, one of the hard things about free improv with another person is how do you end a piece if you really have not planned out any sort of template here to work with. So by Terry jumping on the theremin and building things up, and I'm kind of rumbling here, I reach into my back pocket of my training, my past training, and perhaps subconsciously thought about the Beatles recording, the Beatles song "A Day in the Life," which ends with this orchestral upward motion, kind of free-for-all climax, and then a big E major chord at the end. So, in a sense, we're not reinventing the wheel sometimes. We're drawing upon past knowledge or tendencies to some extent too. So, just wanted to share that this was one of the first kind of public performances of free improv within the confines of this little sort of aleatoric card games. So the second pivotal moment in my improvisational life, I would say, came with the first collaboration I did with Catalan hurdy-gurdist Marc Egea. During the first month of the worldwide pandemic, Marc reached out to me via email and suggested we pass the time and stay creative by trying a free improvisation suite where one person would do a free improvisation in their home and send via email to the other to put some free improvisation on top of. I'm kind of a morning person, so what I did was I'd get up in about a week or so each of the mornings and try, first thing after a cup of coffee, to just sit down at the piano without any preconceptions, really, and just try to be in the moment and freely improvise. And I recorded it on my little simple audio recorder. I then emailed it to Marc, and a day later got in my inbox him playing hurdy-gurdy on top of my recording. It was really a wonderful experience, almost like a little present each day. So I did 3 or 4 of them on my end where I started, and then conversely he did some free improvisation on hurdy-gurdy and sent it to me, and I tried not to overthink it. I listened to it once just to have some idea of what it was, and then just tried to go with a spontaneous, a free collaboration on top of it as I could. So I thought we'd listen to one example from what ended up being a suite we called Morning Improvisations, and this particular one is one where Marc starts on the hurdy-gurdy and I put a little piano to it afterwards. Fortunately, the pandemic subsided after a few years, and Marc Egea got to come to Oregon in summer of 2023, and we played a number of concerts together, piano and hurdy-gurdy duo, and we decided, because of our morning improvisations, that at each concert we would include one free improvisation between the two of us. The favor of coming to America was reciprocated, as Marc invited me in summer 2024 to go and do similar concerts with him there in Catalonia, which was an incredible treat for me. And we did the same thing. We did a little free improvisation at each of the concerts. So I'd like to share with you a recording of one of those live performances there where we freely improvised. And I'll go start playing it now. And as you can see, this doesn't even really sound like a hurdy-gurdy traditionally, as Marc is not bowing it. He's plucking it like a guitar, very delicate sound. So I decided to hop on to my melodica instead of the piano, which I guess I felt in the moment would have had a better timbre, a better synthesis with the plucking. A light sound. I love the melodica. Also because I can freely roam around with it, not stuck in one place. So I took advantage of walking around the space, interacting with the audience a little bit. You also get a different sound that way, kind of surround sound. So as you can see at the beginning of this free improvisation, I felt like we were a little murky as to where we're going. And then all of a sudden, we entrain there together. It was really a cool moment where we hit this downbeat together and get into a groove, an ostinato of sorts, and I find the tonal center in maybe what he is doing. And although this is not, a masterpiece, I feel like it's coherent and it somehow makes sense to me. So as we play this music in the background here towards the end, I would like to talk a little bit more about just some basic concepts and maybe some free advice, pun intended, for improvisation. Sometimes it might be good in free improvisation, especially collaborative, to put some preconceived limitations in place ahead of time, whether it be these suggestions on cards, maybe improvising to a visual element like a painting. I've done that before. Having some spoken word, a poetry read as something to hang your hat on too and freely improvise on top of that. A film, or perhaps a motive, or decide upon a mode or something like that. Sometimes maybe the best in the moment is not to do that, and just if you're feeling it, just kind of listen and do. It is important to break with inhibitions, especially negative thoughts and restrictions that may get in the way. I know I, over the years, have had to readjust my thinkings before freely improvising, that my improv does not have to be specifically one thing or another. It doesn't have to be modal. It doesn't have to be tonal. It doesn't have to be atonal or sound like Ornette Coleman free jazz or something like that, or 12-tone music, or John Cage. It can really be what one deems appropriate for that moment. And ultimately, I think mood, texture, expressive qualities
things that really communicate well with both your musical partner in the moment or partners and the audience, those can be really the most important elements. On a practical note, just like in general when you play an instrument, make music, remember to take deep breaths before participating in improvisation, during and after. Be gentle on oneself. Not all improvisations end up being masterpieces. It's just sort of the nature of the game, I think. But it's important, I think, to cultivate joy and playfulness. This is something that is reiterated a lot in the book Free Play by Steve Nachmanovich. Practice some aspect of deep listening. I know this is something I need to do more of in my daily life. I'd like to learn more about Pauline Oliveros and some of her work in really sinking into actively listening, and then perhaps doing some group singing or improvisation where you're really, really focused more on listening and creating a composite sound with other people. And of course, as I've said a few times today, make use of your unique talents and background. So in that sense, we're not breaking with relationships. We're also embracing that and make use of what is around you in the moment. It is hard to know where the art of improvisation in music is headed in the future. I know for myself, today I'm finding a lot of interest in music that might be somewhere in between composition and improvisation. Being a composer and more of a traditionalist in my compositional approach, I think it's expanding potentially for my own music and creativity to explore what Anthony Braxton might call trans-idiomatic music. Again, this sort of teetering between the lines of composition and improvisation. Even in an early free improvisation jazz masterpiece, the album Free Jazz by Ornette Coleman, despite it being very abstract and 99.9% of that album being quote-unquote freely improvised, having two jazz ensembles playing against and with each other, he had small amounts, he had 2 or 3 sections of actual written out, pre-planned music. And as a listener, to me that really, that helps. It gives you something to kind of have a frame of reference upon. So I'm curious for my own self to do some music writing with others where maybe I expand on that approach. I've also been very curious about the music of people like Gabriela Montero and her solo piano improvisations that often hearken to older styles, but in her own mode, in her own way today. And people like Dan Tepfer, very talented, unusual pianist who also utilizes technology and group and even orchestral improvisation. Really amazing stuff. The book by Susan Allen and Nicholas Chase that I also have in my recommendation list here is interesting because it really drives home the point of group free improvisation as a beautiful metaphor for life. I resonate with that quite a bit. It cultivates interrelations. It is, in a sense, a multitude of conversations. And most importantly, it is an egalitarian type of music making. There isn't a conductor per se. We're really kind of equal in exploring these things. In my piano composition, Red Tail Hawk, I structured it in the sense of a left-hand ostinato pattern. It goes on for a while,
block, and then goes to a different one, and to a different one over time. In the right hand, I have, for much of it, a series of suggestions as far as pitches to improvise upon. So in a sense, this is more of a composition, but definitely has elements of a structured improvisation. The beginning starts off with a written out gesture imitating a hawk calling. So the left hand maintains itself here, while the performer experiments. And it's a little different each time. The timing can be different. And so on and so on. I thank you so much for your time, and I really encourage a dialogue here about the intersectionality between composition and improvisation, things like aleatoric or chance music and semi-structured improvisation. I'm looking forward to, in my musical future, collaborating more with my composer and performer friends and just feeling a liberation that both connects us to our past, not disowning it, but looking forward to creating new sounds together. Again, I wanted to mention a couple books that I referenced a lot here in this presentation. Free Play, highly recommend, talking about improvisation in general, not only specifically to music. And Passage of Desire, written by partially by a local author here to Oregon. And this one talks a lot about group improvisation, the free improvisation, and the sort of egalitarian beauty of it. So again, thank you so much for your attention. I hope you can click on the QR code and download or take a look at the series of interview questions. And please contact me if you want to discuss this topic further. Thanks so much. Okay, I that was the presentation. So I would love to just kind of open up the Zoom room if we can make this work without too much echo. And if people have anything they want to share, I hope you could hear it reasonably well enough.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. That last bit was really fun.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, that was at my ongoing Tsunami book series. Hi, Yolanda.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for being here. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, I love that last improvisation. That was great.
Thanks. It's a little humbling that I see, oh, wait, I guess we do have some, patterns, if he starts off on, because we've done we did a whole suite actually when he was here, when Marc Egea was here over the summer, and we did a recording live in person just in my studio. And there we had a whole variety of little, we just did multiple things and pick and choose, but it was interesting how we do fall into our patterns. I'm realizing. I don't whether that's good or bad.
For me, I've never seen a melodica before, or
Oh,
that was interesting.
yeah. Ted plays it very well and plays it a lot, and I love it. It's my friend.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Marc Egea is much. He's very, very steeped, it seems, in kind of free improv, and so that's been really good for me to, along with Ted, to kind of push myself and kind of go for it. I'm more used to improvising. My comfort zone is more within a pop or jazz kind of piece. But it is very liberating to just kind of go for it sometimes. So.
Sometimes I heard I'm not sure. Maybe this is to me. It's just my ears, but I felt that you're sometimes you would go to these middle, Central Asian, Middle East, Eastern European sorts of modes, and I think that might just be in your genes or something, your genetics.
Yeah,
And
I'm not doing it consciously, but it just, I guess we all have our tendencies and a lot of people have said that for a long period of time. I mean, actually, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because like I found like the first little thing I wrote when I was a kid, like it was more of an actual like a little piece kind of thing. And I don't know, it sounds like an Eastern European folk tune or something. And yeah, who knows? It just,
I like that. I like that because it seems like even though in a way you've managed to dispel constructions and things like that were, really mental. The fact that you went below all that into the substrate, you might say, of
mm,
of just how you are embodied, and this is the music that is closest to that. Somehow
well,
it makes sense to me that maybe everybody would have,
a
if they were
different,
improvised enough, they would find their own like
right.
base like
Like
that.
maybe that is kind of yeah, something to think about. I feel like as I'm getting older, I feel like I'm more able to be myself more consistently. I don't know, maybe you all feel the same way, as you get older, you kind of, you know yourself better and you're just more comfortable in your skin. So maybe you're naturally are going to just do what feels most natural. Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. I want to make sure on a practical note here that I can share that addendum because we've got people like Ted's answers on that. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, Ted. I've got
I forget what I wrote. So
but it's mixed in with everybody else.
yeah,
But one is able to put a PDF on the chat. You're supposed to be able to, right?
should be able to share it the same.
Yeah, how does that work? T
Just share
format?
the screen where you're just.
Oh, file. No, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna it's not letting me do it. That's weird. Huh. Oh well. Huh.
Do you have the PDF up on your computer?
I have it on my computer, but I just thought I'd maybe put it like in the link in the chat or something, and then you could grab it.
Oh, I see.
But if not, don't worry. Or
You could send it along later if you needed to.
yeah, maybe I can just do that somewhere. Yeah, because it's interesting to check it out, and there's some other links on there of some other videos that talk about improvisation. So it's like I'm sorry, I thought yeah, I'm curious what your all's I don't know. One thing I am curious about is have you all had experience with sort of like communal, I mean, obviously there's been communal kind of free improvisation, but taking it to more of this kind of like in between land of semi-composed piece that has also improvisational times and elements, but as a group project. I'm curious, I mean,
Yeah, I've had a couple of experiences like that.
Really?
In that category. I was thinking during your presentation, I've had really like four, maybe five different kinds of experiences with improvisation in my earlier life. And two of them, one was in Los Angeles back in the 80s. I had a friend who was an incredible musician and played all kinds of Indian, Middle Eastern, and Renaissance instruments. And I had a collection of percussion instruments, and I played flute and saxophone and piano. And we got our friends together, many of whom were not really musicians, but just people who could beat a drum or play a little piece of percussion. And we got together with the intention of just creating like a circle, just a music circle that was like a spiritual kind of a vibe. And we would just start with a chant, and oftentimes the vocal inflections would start guiding the instrumental music, and then the instruments would sort of take on strains, and we would listen to each other. And this would last for about, I don't know, 45 to 60 minutes of constant improvisation like that.
Right.
I recorded it all on well, most of it on those days was on cassette. Some of it later on got onto digital media, but it's all been pretty much lost at this point. But
How did it feel in the moment? And how did it feel to you?
Amazing feeling
Yeah.
in the moment, and was just totally transcendent. Like almost like being hypnotized.
Right. Right.
Your training on the instrument is just kind of there in the background, and you're not thinking about what you're playing. It just kind of comes out, and somebody does something over here and you respond to that, and then another over here.
Sure. Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
there were moments of dissonance and sort of incompatibility, but then it would come back into like a synchronicity. So it was sort of like a pulsing where it was out of sync and then back
Yeah.
in.
Interesting. It has like its own life, its own breath or something.
Yeah. And we did this like every weekend for 2 to 3 years.
Nice.
Well, then you get to really know people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was in the early period of my compositional studies. So it had some influence on my composition, but not a lot. And it really kind of grew out of my earlier time, which was related to jazz. I was playing saxophone and flute and guitar in the jazz world.
Yeah.
And so it sort of came out of that and then got inflected with world music.
Right.
One
That
experience, it was a large group of 10 to 12 people and a lot of diverse perspectives and influences coming together. It
and you
was,
can find common ground somewhere, right?
it's amazing, you know.
There's that quote from Chick Corea that seems to really apply when you have, you know, a larger group of people that you're kind of
Yeah. Oh,
freely
definitely.
improvising. Leave space, right? That's like
Yeah.
such an important thing to be conscious of at every given moment. Less is
Absolutely.
more. But as far as like, did you do anything where you kind of like ahead of time asked anybody, like each person maybe to kind of like create some sort of written out small something, a motive or a chord
No, not
progression
in
or
that
a
context.
melody or
No, we never
no.
did any words beforehand or any
Right.
kind of guidance. We just sat, got quiet, and started, and that was it.
Which is beautiful, yeah.
And
I guess I'm curious how,
the
if and
other
how it would
experience
work
that
the other
I
way
had,
to incorporate that.
the other experience that I had where it was a little more structured was an album that I created in the mid 90s. This was in New York City, and I was doing a lot of improvising on the flute at the time. So I recorded a series of improvs on the flute, and I was using a DA-88, like an 8-track digital recorder at the time. And so I was recording the flute on one of the tracks. And then I invited other musicians in to listen to the flute track and play on top of it. There was a hammered dulcimer player, and he added a background of hammered dulcimer with, you know, incredible rhythm behind it. And then I got a guy that played 5-string cello that was sort of a combination of a bass and a cello. And he created the bass line based on what the two of us had now improvised in separate tracks. So each track was a complete improvisation with maybe a few words of guidance, but not much more than that. So all the players were
Gotcha.
experienced in improvisation.
That's neat to keep it really fresh. Yeah.
Already recorded and just layer another improvisation.
Right. Yeah. With recording, that's a whole nother world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's different than live? I mean, it is. We have more control over it.
Yeah.
How about you, Ted? As far as like kind of incorporating a little elements of composition into what would be considered more like free improvisation with other people. I'm curious, like kind of a group, not only group improvisation, but you know, having had some structure ahead of time or some pre-planned ideas. I don't know, that gets complicated. It gets kind of
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
yeah.
I did the one piece with kind of a little funny narrative in it, and then some directives for each instrument in each section. There were 6 sections, and then we actually created that as a melange. So then there was actually a role for a conductor to spontaneously cue each person to the next part, and so you got these variations of sections over each other. Um, and I did more recently a piece where I just did kind of like a opening note for note composed vamp, although it kind of keeps end up being different every time I've played it. Somehow we take the opening as more of a as a suggestion, but then that was like a 6 part piece. So then you got, these different starting points for different kind of improvs. And maybe, that you go back and forth. Like it
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're like, is this necessary or not?
Right.
I just think
Right. Right.
trying it a
Right.
variety of ways. Sometimes
Exactly.
in some situations, maybe even on some nights, you want to do it differently. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's
But
a good point. Yeah, I was kind of mentioning that in the presentation a little bit.
yeah.
Sometimes maybe the best is just to not have a game plan and be in the moment and
Mhm.
feel it, especially if it's just two people. Maybe that's I know for like Mark, my hurdy-gurdy friend, I kind of asked him. I mean, we have a little bit of a language barrier too. Not we can communicate pretty darn well, but his English and my Spanish are kind of the music speaks hopefully for itself. but
Does.
I kind of tried to feel out if he wanted to do something more structured, and he didn't want to. He just felt like it's just best to be in the moment and listen, and it's good for me because that's maybe not my original instinct,
Hmm.
The
Good
thing
to push
is
yourself.
that's hard. Well, you were talking about patterns before. So, when you're doing absolute freedom, it's
Mhm.
kind of it's easy to make it similar. Um, and it can be a challenge to keep things different and varied.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Kevin and Yolanda? Some thoughts on your experiences with kind of with free improv or some insights to kind of put into the mix here?
I have a ton of old experience. I mean, I used to do that a lot, probably mostly in the 80s and early 90s. So I never played jazz, but I cut my eye teeth of improv being a dance accompanist for modern dance classes for years. And I actually made a very paltry living at it in San Francisco for a while. And the thing about playing for dance is the whole visual element is automatically a stimulation, which is extra musical. And um, I don't know, it always provided me with like another concrete element that was always I could access. So, and I then kind of went from that to working with poets, mimes, and then other musicians, kind of as my own language changed and I was more adaptable to musicians who were doing a lot of modal things. And I learned a lot about non-Western approaches to improv that way. But it's all kind of well in my past. And I think now as a composer, I think I would be lost without improv. I think basically that's how I compose. I don't know how you guys all put your pieces together, but probably for the last 30 years, well, maybe not quite that long as I've had something like either Master Tracks or Logic, what I do is I spend time at the piano, um, you know, improvising in whatever it is the piece is going to be all about. And then I go running over and I zap it into Logic. And then I play against myself in Logic until the piece kind of melds itself into submission.
Hmm.
So it's a very improvisatory approach to
composing. Yeah.
composing.
Yeah, that's great.
The thing about composing is, you get to stop time and fix it. You get to get your counterpoint better or the form. I
Right.
mean, that's where you really work on form. It's hard to work on form.
Right.
Or for me, I can improvise counterpoint if it's slow-mo, but once it gets at speed, it's really, really hard to do as well as you could write it. So you go back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And composition lets you do that, but
Right. Yeah, I think I tend to be such I may improvise in a sense to gathering initial germs, seeds for a piece, a composition. Obviously, there's that element, but I pretty soon after that, I kind of like, I put my little ideas out on not a spreadsheet, but kind of like have them there, and then I kind of feel more like an architect and do the compositional thing at that point. But it's been fun. Occasionally, I've tried to kind of force myself to do a different method than what I would naturally be drawn to doing. That's a little bit more like yours, or say, hey, I'm gonna make a vignette on a particular title. It can extend. I had a little project that somebody asked me to do that with, and I just decided, oh yeah, I'm actually going to improvise for a chunk of period of time on that, that title, and then I'd record it, and then I would glean what I liked from it and tweak it into a composition later. But it was less kind of intellectual from the get-go, and had at least more of an improvisatory atmospheric quality, which I think was nice and needed. So sometimes I think it's important to use like your kind of general modus operandi that works really well, but sometimes just try a whole different
right.
outside methodology.
Yeah, I lost what I was going to say.
Sorry.
That's right.
I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. That's fine. We'll come back.
Um,
Oh, I know. It's the thing about improv for me is, especially, I mean, I don't think I do it for myself, but only rarely. I mean, I have a morning practice of doing, like a wake up improv to the day. But aside from that, I don't sit and just noodle for myself a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all about communication. And since it is, I feel strongly that you have an obligation to that person, the other set of ears you're playing to, whether it's another musician or
Mm-hmm.
somebody listening,
Mm-hmm.
that you somehow make it a little bit more than your own personal garbage. And
Mm-hmm.
usually form is what does that in my mind. So I'm always trying desperately to make it be formally well formed, whatever the improv is.
Mm-hmm.
And that and
That's
that brings into play something that's very hard for me, which is memory. I mean, if you're going to have form, you have to have repetition somewhere. And I
right.
can't ever remember how I started something,
Right.
remember how
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
muscle
Yeah.
memory to
Yeah.
kind of bring it back and make it sort of happen again, so it becomes a goalpost or something.
You're bringing up some really cool points. Yeah. And the audience accessibility, that kind of thing of having a structure that would maybe give the audience something to go by, as opposed to,
Right.
yeah, being just a therapeutic, improvisatory few minutes for yourself that you need to do to get something out, emotions out or something.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Kevin, do you want to chime in with anything either different or
Oh,
related or?
I these days most of my performing is freestyle.
Mhm.
Even solo, I'll just freestyle on the guitar.
Wow. Wow.
And I've gotten really comfortable with that, though I do wonder if I do go back to old patterns, how much of it really is new. But I wanted to mention deep listening,
Mhm.
trying to find it's because I agree that I'm most comfortable either with no rules, freestyle, or something written. And in between, I mean, aside
Yeah.
from jazz, it's a
Yeah.
little crazy. And I was trying to think of some of the stuff that in deep listening that Pauline would have us do. And one of them that came to mind is kind of a interesting mix of formal and total improv. And that is everybody would silently choose a melody that they knew by heart, including the words, but they knew all the pitches, right? And we would get into a circle, say there's like 8 of us, and then we would lean into the center of the circle and sing the first word together of whatever that was, whatever pitch it was, and then we back out, and then just a slight moment of silence, we lean in again and do the next note. So the rhythms were not there, but the pitch sequences were something that were formed already
Oh.
outside, but you didn't know how they were going to mix at
Mhm.
all. And so that was the
Interesting.
fun of it, was just seeing how
Huh.
they got together like that.
Oh, wow. I would love to try that experiment. That sounds
Yeah, it's fun,
potentially interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
fun. It's kind of weird. I mean, I find that in the middle of it, it's like, oh my gosh, I just lost my note. Where was I in?
Yeah.
Yeah, and deep listening is wonderful
I
for just everyone
I
just
really wish I could come up there
creating.
and experience that. One of these days, the timing will work out because it's an ongoing
Yeah, every month
activity. That's all.
Tomorrow night, isn't it?
yeah,
Wow.
tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. One thing you said before was that, yeah, maybe, falling into old patterns or and maybe not feeling new and fresh or something, but maybe that's not such an important thing that we value that too much. Do you think like we put too much of an importance on this idea that whatever you're creating has to be, so incredibly unique and original? I mean, it's
Oh,
hard to do.
well, you shouldn't feel like you have to like what, create a new instrument or
Right. Well,
scale or
yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that or
exactly. New melody and
yeah,
everything. I mean, God, everything is
yeah,
to some extent borrowed from everything else.
right,
We're all
right.
related and interrelated.
It's
The way
in
we
the
do it in the
moment.
moment is going to
So
be
yeah,
somewhat unique, obviously. But
yeah.
um, I wish Brian Eno was here. I bet he'd have a way to synthesize all of this. He's quite a. Have you all seen that documentary? The Brian Eno.
Oh, who he is, but
Yeah. So did you
Yeah.
hear about this thing within the last year? I forget the name of, I think it's just called Eno. A documentary about him came out, but because he's so into what's it called? Generated content. Basically all the cinemas around the world that have been showing this thing, each time it's different, like really radically different. Somehow there's a computer program that in real time happens when they screen it in the theater. So it takes from various interviews and archives and this and that. It's not linear. And I was blown away because I asked Jennifer, like, did you see the movie? And she was talking about certain scenes in it. And I'm like, I don't remember anything about Eno's early upbringing. I was kind of bummed that we didn't hear about it. Well, it was because it was a completely different film.
Wow.
But yeah, if you get a chance, I'd recommend it.
Huh.
He explains things just about the arts and his perception about the role of art, especially today, really well. I'm not huge. Anyway, even if you don't care for his music so much, I think philosophically he's very interesting.
Well, back to your question about patterns, I don't think
Yeah.
it's really, it's not really important where you've been. You're going to take yourself with you, and it's all going to get mushed up in whatever you're doing. You can't get rid of whatever you've done.
Right.
So it seems to me that if for some reason you find yourself in a place that seems old, it's probably because you're not in the present.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
stay present, it will always be fresh. And if you're always ready to be surprised and
Yeah.
open to it and pray for it, it's like it will happen.
Yeah.
And it's not, if you find yourself bored with something, it's because you let yourself go on autopilot. And that's not,
Yeah.
that's something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Good. Very well put. Well put. Yeah. I agree.
One of the things I used to do when I had students that I did improv with, I taught improv basically for about 10 years. It's called a hand drop, where you just, close your eyes so you don't know where your hand's going to drop on the piano, and you just let it drop, and you listen to it, and then you make a piece out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
your hands, even your hands have patterns that they know how to do, but in the hand drop, you can kind of,
Mm-hmm.
surprise yourself. And
Right.
then to have to make sense of whatever it is you did means you have to listen like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Where does it
Yeah.
possibly go from here?
I've told my students that I've often, gotten inspired to start a piece because of what I call a happy accident. I remember once one of my students did, like they were about to start the pas fatigue, I think, but for some reason, they weren't paying attention, and I can't remember exactly what the chord was, but it was something it was kind of like a poly chord, almost like I don't know, like a rite of spring chord or something, and my ears perked up. It wasn't that, it was something else, but it was a C minor with something on top of it. And anyway, I distinctly remember that I was like, oh, I love that sound. I'm gonna just make a quick mental note of it, and later on, I actually, started kind of composing or improvising on that. So yeah, be aware of happy accidents. Be on the ear lookout for them.
Yeah, and you were saying, you only ever a half step away from a right note, but we all hit wrong notes, even when we're improvising and we're really listening. Something that just happens. So the other rule I learned from someone else early on is just incorporate it.
Yeah, Thelonious Monk had a quote pretty much along those lines. I think he said every wrong note is an opportunity.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Nice.
So, yeah. That and the whole thing with group improv. I played with a bass player who also played koto and dilruba, which is like a bowed sitar. And so we would do koto tuning pieces, and then we would do dilruba tuning pieces, and on top of that he would sing, and
Yeah.
it would happen. And sometimes we did large groups, but often it was just he and I. But even in large groups, his guidance to everybody was, don't say anything at all until you have something to say. And then when you do have something to say it. Just say it, period. And when it's done, stop saying it. And you can get a lot of good guidance out of that, because then you know when to stop, you know when to start, you know when to listen. So.
Right. And do you feel like at certain points in group improvisation, one is more a leader steering us, one's a little bit more follower, and then sometimes you're really kind of linked in together unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Like really kind of entrained and
Yeah.
at the hip, and then
Right. And those are magical moments, but they
Mhm.
can also be chaotic and maybe not magical.
Right.
So, yeah. I had another group called Halika, which was percussionists who did a lot of ethnic percussion from all over the world. He was especially good on talking drum and also doumbek. And he had a small paylog tuning mallet kind of gamelan, small one. So we did, modal stuff and a saxophonist. And on top of that, a photographer who did photo montage. So there was a visual element. So some of the pieces where we were watching the photo montage and trying to make music, according to that. And he would surprise us with new images and have to deal with that. So, and yes, we would go in with a roadmap that said, okay, well, we know this piece is going to start with in paylog tuning because, Ian's going to start with his little
Right, right.
and let him let him do his whole thing until he's really done. And then one of us would pick maybe which one each night would come in next on top of him. And, it was kind of structured in terms of trading off. So,
Right. Just a general sort of, yeah. Roadmap.
so,
Nice.
gosh, that was such a long time ago. Amazing to think about.
Well, I look forward to doing some stuff with you all or some of y'all in the future. And Ted and I have done, I guess we started our little free improv thing at the 50/50 concert, right?
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
We're both born in the same year, so we turned 50 6 years ago. And so we did, I think when
No,
we were
it's
49,
more
I said,
recently than that,
we
wasn't
should, yeah, you're right. Can
Yeah.
you believe that? It's been 6 years.
it? Yeah,
Right?
I think the
Yeah.
world's aged more since then.
So I thought that was a clever title for our concert
Yeah.
to do half his music, half mine, and then we did a free improv on each of those shows, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare that or anything to right get
No,
used to
no,
each other. Yeah,
it was a different thing every time.
yeah, but definitely melodica. We're
I
pro
think
melodica here.
I think we were both on melodica at one point or another.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before.
Uh,
It's a wonderful thing to have. It's wonderful to have a kind of a vocal instrument like
I'm
that.
wondering if I can just somehow get that link to you because I would both the addendum and what would be an easiest way here besides
Do you have
what do you
it?
think?
You don't have it saved online anywhere posted?
It's on a Google stock somewhere, but I don't know how to unless we go share and you can do that QR code and literally just take a picture of it. It'll go to it.
Hmm.
But that might be kind of weird. I don't know.
You could, yeah.
We should wrap it up here soon. I know it's getting late. And,
Didn't you guys have some kind of Cascadia jam not too long ago?
Cascadia Jam.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard people were going to go down to Eugene or something or Salem, and
Well, we had a free improv day or event. Okay, Salem was doing a Make Music Day this was last June.
okay, yeah.
And we did do like a little bit of a free improv group. And we were kind of doing
oh,
some
right.
parts of the piece I was talking about, the second one.
Did you
Uh,
get a fair array of instruments? I mean, did you have?
a little bit. We had David Jones on French horn.
Mhm.
Kevin, you were there, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. And
And
guitar.
Carson. So we had a little bit of guitar and flute and keyboard. We
So,
must have had some percussion going on. Who am I forgetting? Kevin was there.
so how did you do that? How did you organize that?
We just did it. We'd all played. I had most of these people playing on a free improv piece at a concert a little earlier. Not so we kind of had done a little bit, and we did put in a little bit of modal jazz in there too, like Little Sunflower, I think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to over rehearse it.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
so,
also nice to get to know each other musically. That's kind of
but it
a
was
bit of a fine
cool.
line there.
Yeah, it was different stuff each time. We really went different places. So it was, and there were just different combinations and things going on. What impressed me most was the audience. Um, that it looked like most of the groups they had there that day were like, singer-songwriter type things, but they were like listening to us, and I'm like, wow, we're doing like, this kind of almost avant-garde stuff, although we were trying to tone it down. And so I thought people are all going to be looking at us kind of funny, but they were applauding and paying attention much more.
I think audiences in general really like when they see any sort of improvisation or something kind of fun and playful, don't you think?
Maybe,
Within
yeah.
reason, I feel like people really kind of gravitate towards it if they see like that the performers are enjoying themselves and kind of teetering on, we're walking a tightrope a little bit and without a safety net. I
Well,
don't know.
if you watch that clip that you showed us, the two of you guys, if you watch the people watching you, they were, it was kind of like they were watching a tennis match. They were looking to see who's going to say something
Yeah,
next.
because they knew that it was fresh. We didn't know.
Really,
Yeah.
they were very much in the moment with you, which was really fun to watch. Yeah, can be really, really great.
Yeah, neat.
I remember when I was at the conservatory, though, the whole thing about the garbage thing that I brought up, we had some kind of structured improv that it was like a new music ensemble assignment, and we had a concert, and there were four corners of the room with different instrumentalists set up in each one, and there was some kind of painting in each corner. And my job, for some reason, was to go and activate each. It was kind of like a John Cagey thing,
Sounds like it, yeah.
to go and activate each little ensemble by singing something off the top of my head at them, and leave them and then go off and activate the next. So eventually, that's the cagey part of it. And of course, the whole thing was an absolute mess. And I had my roommate. I had a woman friend who was a roommate that I had invited, and she just came back and she says, "You can't do that for people." She says, "That's not for everybody. It's just for you guys." It was like,
Right.
we're all talking to yourself and you were having a great time, but it was just totally boring
Right.
for the rest of us. And I thought, lesson learned, It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
it was.
There's kind of a difference between like the improv. I mean, aleatoric. Are you consistent
Yeah.
using the phrase now that way, where it's really it has a different meaning as to how you're approaching it?
Yeah, I always have trouble with some of the nomenclature, like defining that, one is more of a compositional kind of concept.
Right. There was no composition behind that at all. It was all just sound.
It was a
But,
happening. It was a happening.
John Cage did this thing at Mandeville Center at UC San Diego when I was living in San Diego County. It went on for 3 hours, and it was basically something like that. It was after the time I'd been at the conservatory, so it's not the concept, but he had multiple ensembles on stage, a very large stage. And he would basically activate one or another at a time. They weren't all going at the same time, but a couple of them would be going at once and not playing the same music, and as I say, it went on for 3 hours, and I kept thinking, all right, I can stand to listen to this and hopefully listen for architecture maybe or something. And I would say there was none, it was just kind of.
Well, that's the whole concept of his trying to
it was,
that you make it in your well, I guess you're kind of trying to go there, make that architecture in your head, even if it wasn't pre-planned. Yeah, you make connections.
I couldn't find it.
No.
It
could be sonically interesting, some of it though, right? I mean,
sure. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I've had the same experience with Cage performances. It's like just boring. I mean, it's like boring, and there's no meat to it. It's like I don't know. I never could get into it. I had listened to a couple of them, and they were just like empty for me.
I would agree. And he was loving it, of course. He would kind of wave his
hand he was
and start the next one and walk
he was
around.
having the time of his life, being up on stage and, getting, this was at California Institute of the Arts, he was a performer, big event. People came from around LA to see it, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I
But I
agree.
think there is some difference when you're saying that these are truly randomly placed, as he would do in different ways, rather than some kind of direction to it that spontaneously felt. I feel like that's there's a fundamental distinction,
I
and
would agree. Yeah,
yeah.
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 I
I mean,
haven't had much luck with aleatoric composing. Like one of the first pieces I wrote was a big song cycle, and I had these interludes in it where I gave patterns, sort of like, I don't know,
A gesture, like,
with
yes.
little slashes and a no note head. So it was like and the instruction was take from the music that you've just been playing and just freely, go up and down in this pattern. And boy, it took a lot of coaching to get anything
Hmm.
even halfway decent. And even then, it was like not really sounding good. And I ended up feeling like I'm going to have to someday recompose that and just write the notes out
Yeah.
because these were classical musicians that had, no jazz background, and they just were not able to do it. And
well, that's almost another discussion is can everybody improvise? And I was a teacher of it for a long time because I thought you could teach people to improvise, but I came away from it really doubting that. I mean, I think our brains are all different.
Hmm.
yeah,
And
Yeah. Some people are
and
more naturally
yeah,
able
it's,
to.
Some people just can't do it, are you saying? Or you couldn't teach them?
well, maybe I couldn't get them to. I mean, I tried lots of little
No.
tricky ways of trying
Yeah.
to get them to get into the
Hmm.
moment in a
Yeah.
way they were worried about. But in fact, some people just could go there immediately, and some people
Hmm.
just would fight it.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree from my experience too.
People are blocked in various ways about it.
Hmm.
They're worried,
Yeah,
about
inhibitions. Yeah.
perception or, making
Hmm.
mistakes,
Hmm.
and especially classical musicians, if you're
Well,
supposed to play
yeah,
everything perfectly, how
yeah.
can I play everything perfectly if I not don't have notes in front?
But I think they're probably really good at it because their brains are different, and they excel at things that my brain don't excel at
Hmm.
all.
Right, right. Yeah.
So, I can't imagine, to be honest, memorizing concerti, not one but several. I don't have memory. That's not part of my brain, and I think I improvise better because I don't remember
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
So, but we're all just different,
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
beauty of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Cultivate your strengths.
right?
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. I'm starting to lose my battery here, so maybe we should wrap it up. What do you think,
So
all?
maybe I'll see you guys next weekend, eh?
Yes, you have a piece on the concert?
I do, and I'm
Yeah,
Or do
gonna
you-
yeah.
be.
I'm gonna
Good.
make it up there too, so I'm excited.
Great. Great.
I will
I'm
hope.
I'm a little concerned about where do you park these days around there? That seems okay. Is that
Park
safe enough
blocks, maybe?
time? I'm sorry,
Do you know the park blocks? They usually,
park plots. Is that the name?
oh,
Park
near
blocks,
near
blocks.
you're talking about parking for
Yes.
Lincoln Hall, yeah.
Lincoln
There's
Hall,
usually
yeah. The
spots there.
park blocks that it's about where 8th would be, one over from Broadway.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Anyway, the one where there's kind of the
Oh, the
oh
mall, that kind of the
Yeah,
trees.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
can you
There's
park?
usually spots there, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All
I
right.
think so.
Okay. And that part of town is not. I mean, it's not affected by any of what's going on in Portland these days.
We were talking about that yesterday. I think it's all headed in the other direction from it. So,
No National Guard patrolling the streets there.
well, there's no telling, but hopefully, the indications of like the route of everything we saw seemed like it was going to be on the other side, kind of waterfront park and a little bit
Right.
more
Yeah, that's a
north.
few blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't ever say for sure with all that's going on, but hopefully so.
Okay.
Yep. Well, everybody be well, and
Indeed.
It's
yeah,
fun.
maybe I'll send those links to Liz and get it up there or something later on an
Thank
email
you
or the
all.
website or whatever. Yeah, I hope you got something out of it, and
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
fun.
hope I
Yeah.
get
Thanks,
inspired
Glenn.
Yeah.
to
Thank you.
thanks
start
thank you for the
improvising more.
discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay. Well, I will hopefully see a lot of you soon.
Thank you.
Great. Great.
Bye.
Thanks.
Great to see you
Bye.
all. Ciao. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.